take the script and we get together early, probably a couple months prior to the build, or as soon as his schedule allows, and we talk about the play, what it means, what we think is interesting in the story, and then some logistics about the basic requirements of just what's needed in the story. We then usually exchange, or he generates some images that interest him, and they're really just sort of to spur some thought. For this show in particular, he showed me some images of records falling from the sky and piling up on the floor, a jukebox. There was an orchestra inside a jukebox. So he was really interested in those kind of images attracted him, and that's sort of sometimes just a gut level thing as opposed to sort of spurred on by what you feel about the script. The story is a couple simple, sweet little love stories that sort of string together Elvis's music and hits we know and love. And so we were really interested in it being about the music. It's also not realistic in any way. The audience and the characters sort of have a interesting relationship in terms of there's a kind of winks at the audience, like we're in this together, I understand. So we decided we could abstract it. And that location needed to be indicated, but didn't need to be fleshed out. There was no reason for anything to be realistic. So with that in mind, and the images of the records in the jukebox, we decided that everything sort of happened on these record platforms. The whole space is sort of framed to look like a jukebox with a lot of light. And then the orchestra is also framed in a jukebox sort of motif, and they're visible throughout, and they're a vital part of this play. They interact a little more than in some shows. And then there's a series of 5 rolling platforms that have stairs and the ability to change signage and graphics. These 4 are rolling wagons with a record as the back. And these 2 have a record in the sort of middle of the platform with doors that we can use to come and go. And then as the scenes go on, they get redressed to indicate location. For example, the first scene after Jailhouse Rock goes to Sylvia's Honky Tonk, and instead of fleshing out a whole restaurant, we decided to just use it graphically. So these 4 units back the actors with some tables and chairs that are made to look like record players. And it just sort of indicates atmosphere, color, and location. And then as the play goes on, these rotate. They're double-sided, they rotate, and they transform the space into something else. So it's all that sort of device, all for Act 1. So we're just indicating location. These platforms have places to sit and stand and sing and dance. And there's minimal but strategic props just to flesh out the scene. And then when we get to Act 2 takes place all in, it's supposed to be an abandoned fairgrounds. We decided it's not abandoned, it's just a fairgrounds. 3 units get permanently redressed with 3 fair games and 3 fair rides. And then all of Act 2, they just sort of rotate around and change directions and change orientation to facilitate each scene. And in this proscenium, all these things are, each one of the colors is a color band. All the other details are outlined in rope light, and jukebox is a sign, which actually we can see out there. That's the center proscenium in process. They're all light boxes, so they have troughs that are painted the color. It gets rope light inside, and then there's plexiglass on top, painted plexiglass on top, in all those colors. These are the actual walls that sit on those rolling platforms that I talked about. They're in paint right now and in process. So I make transparencies off my renderings of the lettering and the difficult shapes, and then they project it, and then they project it onto styrofoam. This is styrofoam backed with Luan, and then they come in and with a jigsaw cut all this out and take out the negative spots, and then they come back and they weave the rope light in and out. And this is harder than it looks because they can't make tight corners, so they have to go back and then they have to come back up, so that it's like threading. So they're good at it. It's a talented group of people here. This is the center part of the proscenium that's in process, and it has a series of rope lights. And rope light's sort of appropriate for this because it mimics neon a little bit, and we used a lot of it, and so it's cool, it's cost effective. He's going to ride across the proscenium prior to Chad's real entrance in a little spotlight, and he's in the process of becoming more like Elvis and Chad every time, but he's going to ride across the front of the proscenium.
There's a lot of space beneath that sky.